Jeff. It's great to be with you this afternoon. For those of you who are tuning in, I am sure you are familiar with our guest this afternoon, Jeff Tunn. Jeff has been a major figure in the IT community for more than 4 decades, with a career that spans Indiana National Bank, Louth Property Group, Goodwill of Central Indiana, Intervision, and the CIO Network. And this afternoon, we're excited to talk to you about the CIO Network. For those who aren't familiar with the CIO Network, at a high level, how would you describe it?
So thank you for having me on the program today. I really appreciate that. And when you say 40 years or 4 decades, oh my God, that's a long time to be doing technology, isn't it? The CIO Network, I describe it as an informal network of CIOs and senior IT leaders that get together a couple of times a month, usually, for the purpose of networking, swapping war stories about what's going on in their respective shops, and kind of that camaraderie that comes with shared experiences. It's been going on for 12 years now.
That's outstanding. So more than a decade with
Yes.
the CIO Network. Take us back in time when you had the idea of getting folks together and creating a CIO network. What was in the air? What was your thought at the time?
It was kind of by accident, actually. So you may recall here in the Indianapolis area, NPower, and they used to do Bite Night once a year. Might have been the precursor to the Mira Awards. I don't know, but it was a big conference, a big dinner event that they had every year. And they brought in a bunch of CIOs, and I was CIO for Goodwill at the time. And we sat down at the table and had a great conversation together. And somebody said, well, we should go to lunch and talk further. And so we did. And somebody at lunch said, well, this was fun. We should do it again next month. And I said, well, I'll schedule it. And I've been doing that for 12 years. But what was happening was there was kind of this gap, this void, if you will, in the Indy area. The CIO roundtable for the SIM group had kind of dissolved and gone away. TechPoint, in early days of TechPoint, had a CIO roundtable, and it went away. And so we were really looking for that sense of community, of getting people together to help each other, learn from each other, and support each other, frankly.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, so I'll make you feel younger. I also have been engaged in the Indianapolis tech ecosystem for 4 decades, and I know in my career at various points, the CIO network was incredibly important as a peer group,
Yes.
as a source of understanding what was going on, what the next trend was going to be. How have you seen the CIO network benefit its participants and members over the years?
Oh, wow. I mean, just I think in a variety of ways. One is there's no way that as CIO you can keep up on all the trends and everything that's going on in the tech space, and to have this group that you end up with people that are interested in different aspects of tech, right? But they can come together and share those things with each other. Also, sharing hey, I've got these job openings. Do you know anybody that would be good in this particular area? So connecting people together for the job seeker, and even helping the CIO themselves when they're in transition, network to try to find that new position. So just a wide variety of benefits of that community.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I know when you set out to benefit the community and you engage in a group like the CIO Network, you often learn and get as much out of it as you contribute to others. So I'm curious, what are some of the ways that the network benefited you over the arc of your career?
Well, I like to joke and say that they've been my content for 12 years, right? So I'm a writer and I'm a speaker, and so a lot of the topics that I end up writing about or speaking about started as conversations with the CIO network. Later as the network continued to grow, just that ability to bounce ideas off of them and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? So it's been very beneficial to me for doing it. Plus, it's personally rewarding, right? When you hear these members talk about, it is my one do not miss meeting a month on my calendar. I will make sure that I am there every month. You know that they're getting things out of it. And honestly, some of my best friends are members of that CIO network, and we get together outside of the network. So it's really been that part of my own personal ecosystem.
Yeah. Thinking about your personal ecosystem, I have really appreciated the regular sharing of resumes and contact information of people looking for a job. I know as a member of the tech community here in Indy that for a long time, the biggest challenge has been hiring first-rate talent, and I think the CIO network has played an important role in helping talented individuals connect to wonderful opportunities. How about you? Have you hired folks that you encountered through the CIO network? Has it been a resource for you too?
It absolutely has been. Earlier on, most recently, I in my current job, I don't really do any hiring. It's just me. But in previous roles with Intervision and Blue Lock, and even at Goodwill, some of the resumes that came through there, I ended up hiring. I can especially think of a couple of intern people that I hired at Goodwill came through direct result of a network, of a resume being shared with the network, and I ended up talking to the person and hiring them on at Goodwill.
Yeah. So thinking about the younger generation, I think I have seen a number of early career professionals be found by the network, helped launch through the network. Any stories stand out for you for how the network has helped propel those early aspirants who want to get into tech to find their moment and to find their career?
Well, without naming names, I do remember one that was early in his career and actually moved to the Indianapolis area to take a role that unfortunately didn't work out. And he had joined the CIO network as a part of that previous company and now relied on the network for introducing him throughout the community. As someone who did not come from the Indianapolis area, but relocated here, he didn't have a large network, and it was really the springboard for him to continue his career. He found a great CIO position and is doing fantastic at that, and is now one of the leaders in the Indy community because of that. And they stayed here, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So the flip side of talent is that talent drives innovation. And I mean, these days we talk a lot about digital transformation, and having those leaders who can come into the organization and help lead change initiatives, lead transformation initiatives is pivotal. I know you facilitate the meetings of the CIO network so that peers can get together and work through those innovation challenges or opportunities together. What are some ways you see the CIO network helping to drive that transformation, to positively drive change happening here in Indiana companies through technology?
I think it's this cross-industry sharing that happens. A couple of years ago, we start every year. We start with kind of the predictions, right? Everybody does that. Yeah. But what we were doing at one of our lunch conversations was we were talking about 5 years from now. Let's envision what your industry, your company looks like 5 years from now. And we had one of the CIOs started talking about, well, because of this, and this, we don't have to have our offices, this is pre-pandemic, we don't have to have our offices close to the urban centers anymore. We can have them out away from where the people live, because they don't, with technology, won't have to commute there. Somebody else in the group who worked in the ag field was like, well, hey, you can't start building your office buildings in the middle of my soybean field, kind of thing. But it really started opening eyes, right? That what might be advantageous to one organization may not be to the other. But let's combine our brains together, our experiences together, and see how we can come up with that solution. And so when you think about digital transformation, it is not about the technology. It's a way of thinking. It's a mindset. It's customer centric, and it's being able to pivot your businesses. And when you have these colleagues that you can sit and talk about, it gives you that outside perspective of your industry rather than being closed in on it. And I think that leads to transformation. This year, when we did the hey, what do you want to talk about next year survey, one of the things that floated to the very top was driving change. And when you look at even the top 5 things that the CIOs want to talk about, it's driving change, it's creating a culture, it's digital transformation, which is driving change and creating a culture, right? So those really are the linchpins of being transformative. And this group allows you the ability to do that.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So you mentioned 2 words that I keyed off of in there that one to use as a bridge to another question. I heard you say pivot and mindset. And I know we're reading a lot about layoffs and the instability in the economy. And you've seen the IT sector go through a lot of those phases. Mm-hmm. And this is the period where, whether it's bad or not, individuals in their positions start to worry a little bit about what they ought to be doing. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have from the perspective of having gone through economic transitions before? Those IT professionals out there are wondering what should they be doing right now. What advice do you have for them?
Oh man, that is a tough question because no one can predict the future. Let me start with that. I would say that the best tool in your toolkit at all times is your network. And I know we're talking about the CIO network, but having a robust network of peers, and even those that aren't necessarily in the tech space, that should something happen, you've got a network that you can fall back on. For those that are in a position to be able to affect investment, a downturn can be a perfect time to take advantage in your market. And I'd look for ways to maybe invest in technology, and see if you might be able to leapfrog the competition during what may be a downturn coming up next year.
Yeah. So you mentioned network, CIO network makes sense. You literally wrote a book on creating the network. Two books recently that have come out targeted at IT professionals. Amplify Your Value, mm-hmm. and Amplify Your Job Search. Could you share what each of those books is about and maybe what inspired you to write them?
Oh, sure. So Amplify Your Value was my first book. And really, underneath the covers, it's the story of the transformation that we did at Goodwill here in Central Indiana. We did it before digital transformation was really a buzzword, but when you look at what we did, we really transformed that organization, and technology was a huge part of that. So the book is leading IT with strategic vision. So it's how do you develop your technology vision to support the overall vision of your organization, no matter what your organization is. And then how do you ensure that strategy stays in lockstep with the vision of the organization? And how do you begin to execute on that? So the reason behind that first book was I had written a series of blog posts that touched on each one of those themes, and really felt like to get the message out to that next generation of IT leader to talk about here's how you do it. Here's a roadmap to follow to put it together. Now, your story won't be exactly identical to mine, your journey, but it gives you those pieces and those tools to help do that. The second book was Amplify Your Job Search, Strategies for Finding Your Dream Job. The inspiration for that was the pandemic. This was early in 2020. Layoffs started to happen. People were out of work and desperate to find work. What the book does is it pulls together 10, 20 years of experience in looking for a job, my own self, but also the dozens and dozens of tech professionals that I've talked to over the years that are in transition, what worked, what didn't work. And so, again, put together a framework for someone to follow. You'll be surprised that both of them at the core have networking as well as journaling. I'm a big proponent of journaling as a leadership tool. And those themes run through both of those books. It's been very rewarding to do that. And the job search book, although it can be definitely used by technology professionals, isn't limited to just technology professionals. Any professional could use that framework and that process for identifying what it is that makes you tick, so that you can get a job that helps feed that part of your being as well.
Yeah, really hear your passion in the response. I think one of the things that I have observed to be true about you over your career is that you have always been completely committed to lifting up others. Before mentorship was a buzzword, before inclusion and belonging became important recognitions culturally, I saw you out there trying to do that for current and coming generations of not just IT leaders, but individuals in the community, period. That was one of the reasons we were excited about partnering with you, as TechPoint has built a leadership academy, which is all about building, preparing, developing next generation leaders. TechPoint's really excited about working with you to build the leadership academy. I wondered if you might tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's really an exciting thing for Indianapolis in central Indiana to bring this to life. I've dedicated this part of my career to bringing forth that next generation of talent. Changing the face of IT is how I like to describe it. And that includes teaching a lot of different things and bringing in experts. You and I don't teach every single module in that academy. We bring in experts to help, but in certain areas, it's what we used to call soft skills. And in my opinion, they're essential skills. It's communication, collaboration, design thinking, time management, all those things that aren't those tech hard skills like coding or configuring a router or switch, but they're necessary to lead. A lot of times, especially in technology related fields, we get promoted because we're good technologists, not necessarily because we're good managers or leaders. And so we need to teach ourselves, quite honestly, as well as teach others how to lead other people, how to create a vision and cast a vision, and how to communicate that to others. So that's really forming the foundation of this Leadership Academy. And I'm really excited for 2023 as we continue to have more cohorts going through that. Sorry, a little tongue tied.
Yeah. So New Year 2023. New Year's always bring reinvention, re-energizing. And one of the exciting things about 23 is going to be close partnership between TechPoint and the CIO network. Really, TechPoint leaning in to help the CIO network become a statewide group that brings together senior-most IT leaders across sectors, across the state. I know we're really excited about working with you on the CIO network in 23. Could you talk about why TechPoint is a natural partner to work with the CIO network going forward?
I am so very excited about this as well. I think the CIO network, started, we talked a few minutes ago, it started with a handful of us going to lunch 12 years ago, and has grown to a mailing list of over 250 IT professionals here in central Indiana. And to be able to marry that up with TechPoint and the event staff and the marketing staff, but more important, the vision that TechPoint brings to the Indiana community for tech and tech jobs, that's really what the CIO network has been all about for 12 years. And to be able to marry that with what TechPoint is doing, I think is going to make the Indiana CIO network much stronger, much richer for the participants. And quite honestly, it enables it to maybe live beyond Jeff Tunn, right? So I'm really excited by it.
No, that's fantastic. So maybe you can share just a little sneak peek into some of the vision for 23. What are some of the things that folks can expect to be coming out of the CIO network as a partnership with TechPoint in 23?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. We're going to be making some changes as part of that partnership. Traditionally, the CIO network has been, its mainstay has been the monthly lunch, which is informal dialogue around a given topic. We're still going to keep that, although it'll be breakfast instead of lunch. We also have a series of dinners that we've been doing with tech service and tech product companies in the area, sponsoring that and really sponsoring the conversation between the thought leaders on the tech side with the IT leaders on the corporate side, and really facilitating some of that conversation and learning together. The other things that we're going to be looking at for 23 include there's going to be some new Mira Award categories. I don't know if I can announce that yet, but you can cut that out if I can't. There's going to be some Mira Award categories related directly to digital transformation and things that would appeal to the CIO network. I'm really excited about that. And the other thing that you and I've talked a lot about, Dennis, is the large companies. Maybe creating an offshoot of the CIO network for the large companies, CIO and CTO, that maybe have different kinds of issues than the mid-enterprise and the small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah. So I think one of the expressions you and I both use fairly often is that change is the only constant. Mm-hmm. And great changes ahead for the CIO network. Certainly, digital transformation is the reality of for many of our top technology leaders, but also for their organizations. And I wonder if you, in the spirit of new resolutions and projections about the future, would be willing to share your crystal ball on a few things that are coming down the pike for senior IT leaders. What's the next couple of years, next few years going to look like for them? What kind of issues are they going to be working on? What kind of things are they going to be focusing on?
You know, I wish I had that crystal ball to be accurate. But I think what we're going to see is some of the technologies that we've been hearing about, AI, IoT, 5G, and those types of things coming together rather than, hey, this is an AI solution, this is an IoT solution, this is 5G solution. You're going to start seeing those married together into solutions that will help drive businesses forward. And I think that trend in 2023, you know, some may call it the metaverse. I think there's some elements of that out there. I think that's still a little bit further down the road for most businesses. But you're going to start to see a lot of that come into corporate IT and be leveraged for the furtherment of what they are trying to do in their particular industry. We've got some great examples here in Indiana of companies that, you know, some of them you wouldn't really think as digital companies. The poster child that I always come up with is Beck's Hybrid Seed Company. What they are doing with digital is incredible. And it's ag. You wouldn't necessarily think digital transformation in ag, but they are leading the way in a lot of ways in that sector. And you know, there's probably dozens more where that came from in examples. And I think 23, we're really going to see the attention turned to that transformation. They may not call it digital transformation. They may call it business transformation. But you're going to start to see that a lot more and a lot faster over the next year to 18 months.
Yeah. So last question. I have also heard you say many times over the years that the Indiana tech ecosystem is one of the United States' best hidden secrets. And unfortunately, in a lot of ways, we're still a hidden secret. But for our would-be entrepreneurs listening, and for our early career professionals who are listening, and maybe just anybody who needs a reminder, what would you say to somebody are the top reasons why you ought to consider starting a business or starting a tech career here in Indiana?
Well, there's lots of reasons. I made my home here in central Indiana a long time ago. And one of the reasons that attracted me is, first of all, it's just a great place to raise a family, if that's in your future. It's Midwest values. Maybe a little bit slower pace than on the East and West Coast, maybe. But I think more than anything, it's what we've been talking about, the community. The community of IT and technology professionals here in Indiana, they're out there wanting to help. And that sounds simplistic, but I don't know of anybody in this community, whether they're in the CIO network or just in the broader community, I don't know of anybody that you couldn't pick up the phone and have a conversation with and talk about what challenge is in front of you. So if you're looking to start a business, there's a lot of talent in Central Indiana that you can draw upon. But there's also that community of tech entrepreneurs that you can help support each other. If you're a tech professional and you're looking for a great place to come and work, Indiana is a great place to be. It's there's lots of things to do, and there's that wonderful camaraderie of other tech professionals out there.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for being with us this afternoon, Jeff. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to work with you. TechPoint is delighted to have you as a partner. We're excited about working on the Leadership Academy this year, excited about working with you on the CIO network, and I want to personally thank you for the opportunity to collaborate and for the great things I know we're going to do together in 23.
I am very excited, and thank you for having me on the program today.